Good evening and welcome to tonight's news bulletin, coming to you live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. The Sultanate of Oman expressed its regret and rejection of the bias of the American administration and its use of its veto power against the draft UN resolution calling for a ceasefire on the Gaza Strip. The Israeli occupation forces intensify raids on the north and southern areas of Gaza after Washington vetoed a United Nations resolution for a ceasefire. And the Sultanate of Oman confirms during the COP28 the implementation of strategic projects and initiatives to find practical and sustainable solutions to climate change. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. The Foreign Ministry issued a statement as follows. The Sultanate of Oman expressed its regret and rejection of the bias of the American administration and its use of its veto power against the draft UN resolution calling for a ceasefire on the Gaza Strip to save the deteriorating humanitarian situation and provide relief to civilians with their living and medical needs, despite the warning of the Secretary General of the United Nations and international humanitarian institutions about the living conditions of the besieged Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip, and the collapse of the ability of the United Nations agencies to carry out their duties, which threatens the fall of the international order in shouldering its responsibilities in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations. In a statement issued by the Foreign Ministry, the Sultanate of Oman renewed its call on the international community to exert all political, diplomatic and legal efforts to lift the siege on the Gaza Strip to stop Israel's aggressions, hold it accountable for the war crimes committed against the Palestinian people, provide all urgent relief required, support their steadfastness on their land, and provide the necessary protections against this brutal aggression. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met today in Washington with the Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC. This came as the United States vetoed a United Nations resolutions backed by almost all other Security Council members and many other nations demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, where Palestinian civilians are facing what the United Nations chief calls a humanitarian nightmare. Blinken's meeting included Secretary General Hissène Brahim Taha and a delegation of Arab states from Egypt, Jordan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the Palestinian Authority at the Department of State. The United States vetoed a United Nations resolution today backed by the vast majority of Security Council members and many other nations demanding an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. The vote in the 15-member council was 13-1, with the United Kingdom abstaining. U.S. Deputy Ambassador Robert Wood criticized the council after the vote for its failure to condemn Hamas attacks in Israel and to acknowledge Israel's right to defend itself. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres told the Security Council that Gaza was at a breaking point, with the humanitarian support system at risk of total collapse, and that he feared that the consequences could be devastating for the security of the entire region. He warned of an humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza and urged the Council to demand a humanitarian ceasefire. Israeli warplanes struck parts of the Gaza Strip overnight into today in relentless bombardments, including some of the drilling the sliver of land Palestinians had been told to evacuate into the territory's south. Residents reported airstrikes and shelling in Gaza's north and south, including the city of Rafah, which lies near the Egyptian border and where the Israeli army had ordered civilians to move to. 2 hospitals in central and southern Gaza received the bodies of a total of 133 people from Israeli bombings over the past 24 hours, the health ministry said. Israel's more than 2-month military campaign has killed more than 17,400 people in Gaza, 70% of them women and children, and wounded more than 46,000, according to the Palestinian Territory's health ministry, which says many others are trapped under rubble. A young Palestinian man was killed by Israeli occupation forces in occupied West Bank. The Palestinian News and Information Agency reported that the Israeli occupation army carried out arrest operations against Palestinians in several villages south of the Hebron area of the West Bank, which led to clashes in which a young Palestinian man was killed and others were injured. Since the beginning of last October, the occupied West Bank has witnessed attacks and arrests carried out by Israeli occupation forces affecting all areas, resulting in the death of dozens and the arrest of more than 3,700 people. In Egypt, voters are heading tomorrow to cast their ballots to elect their president who will lead the country for the next 6 years. 4 candidates joined the election race this time, namely the current president Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Hazem Umar Farid Zahran, and Abdel Samad Sanad Yamama, representing 3 different parties. The 3-day election will continue to receive ballots from Egyptian nationals who will head to election center to choose their president who will lead the country amid tough economic inside and the country and volatile political conditions in the neighboring country. Russian forces launched a drone attack that led to deaths and injuries in the Ukrainian Kherson region. The Ukrainian authorities said that their forces were able to confront a Russian army attack with drones that targeted residential areas in Kherson, adding that Russian forces continue to launch strikes on the west areas in the city since its withdrawal from Dnipro late last year. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and later to come in our news bulletin. A ceremony is held in the British capital London on the importance of mangrove trees, which are an important environmental aspect in the Sultanate of Oman. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. During its participation in the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change COP28 in the United Arab Emirates, the Sultanate of Oman confirmed the implementation of strategic projects and initiatives to find practical and sustainable solutions to climate change through several clear action policies that are consistent with Oman 2040 vision. One of the pillars of Oman Vision 2040 is maintaining a sustainable environment, making addressing climate change issues a national duty and a central component of all strategic plans across all institutions in the Sultanate of Oman. This came in a speech delivered by His Excellency Dr. Abdullah bin Ali Al Amri, Chairman of the Environment Authority, who has also highlighted the Sultanate or Sultans of Oman's national strategy for gradual transition to net zero. Along with the international community, peer institutions and international organizations concerned with combating corruption, the Sultanate of Oman, represented by the state audit institutions, marks the International Anti-Corruption Day. More details in this report.
Since the adoption of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption in 2003 by the United Nations General Assembly, December 9th every year is observed as the International Anti-Corruption Day. The Sultanate of Oman, represented by the State Audit Institution, joins the international community, peer institutions, and international organizations concerned with combating corruption in celebrating the International Anti-Corruption Day.
Sultanate of Oman joining the United Nations Convention Against Corruption in 2013, and then in 2014 State Audit Institution have been appointed as an acting entity, anti-corruption entities, and we are also looking after the implementation of the convention itself. From that date up to date, State Audit is working more in different areas. First of all, we are conducting reviewing of the requirement of the convention itself, what's the result that Oman in a good, let's say, state, and it required certain changes in the legal aspects, and where some of them have been implemented and the other is under modification. It's in line with the Vision 2040 relating to the governance issues, responsibilities and accountability as a whole. So seeing it from that umbrella or that aspect itself, I mean, we are part of the international organization and laws and regulations. This is why we have to be in line with these. Hence, it will be backed on economic and the KPI regarding these particular issues.
The Sultanate of Oman, represented by the State Audit Institution, celebrates the International Anti-Corruption Day while making various efforts and achievements at the international or the regional level to promote integrity and accountability.
We are also participated in a review of other countries like Costa Rica and the other countries. In addition, as a state audit also, we are participated in certain members. We are members in certain convention, like one is relating to the bribery and the other one is like being part of the other members in certain entities and committees, either locally or internally or international organization. State audit also prepared the code of conduct relating to the public employees, and there is a training conducted regarding that particular issues. Furthermore, there is also a national plan for promoting integrity to 2022 up to 2030, and there was a workshop conducted in this regard where there is involvement in for all organization, either private sector, society, governmental organization, and also military sectors.
The efforts of the Sultanate of Oman in general and the State Audit Institution and relevant government units in particular regarding local activities on promoting integrity and accountability were represented in three main aspects for the years 2013-2023. The first aspect was related to follow-up and implementation. The second aspect included national legislations, while the third aspect included awareness and integrity promotion. Joining the international community in celebrating Anti-Corruption Day marks the keenness of the Sultanate of Oman in spreading values of fairness and anti-corruption, thus boosting comprehensive development. From the State Audit Institution, Saleh Bukhalfan al-Rahbi, Muscat.
The total domestic production and import of natural gas amounted to more than 45 billion and 93 million cubic meters, recording an increase of 4.4% at the end of last October. Industrial projects accounted for 58.3% of natural gas users, amounting to more than 26 billion and 317 million cubic meters, while the total use of natural gas for each of the oil fields amounted to 11 billion 243 3,500,000 cubic meters, and for power generation stations 7,312,700,000 cubic meters, in addition to the industrial areas 219,500,000 cubic meters. Al-Sharqiya University in the Wilaya of Ibrahim, North Al-Sharqiya Governorate, celebrated the graduation of more than 300 male and female graduates. The graduation of the 5th batch of educational qualifications diploma students comes to provide the educational labor market with a number of graduates qualified to join educational work. The students expressed their happiness and pride for graduation after hard work and efforts exerted during the years of study, and stressed that they are ready for the next stage of their life, which is to head towards the labor market, get a job, and serve their dear country. A ceremony was held in the British capital London about the importance of mangrove trees, an important environmental tree in the Sultanate of Oman. The ceremony included a lecture on the Omani natural heritage in cooperation with the Royal Geographical Society of Britain. Stakeholders from both countries joined the productive discussions to highlight the importance of mangrove trees in reducing carbon emissions and sustaining biological diversity in the world. Vodafone Oman has become the official sponsor of SEEB Club's first football team. Here is a report on that. Vodafone Oman has signed the first of its kind long-term partnership with a SEEB club as the official sponsor of its first football team. The coming together of the two powerhouse brands will aim to leverage the inherent synergies between football and telecom to generate even greater value for the much-loved game, creating stronger community connections, impactful initiatives, and opportunities for skill development.
We have signed a long-term partnership agreement with the SEEB Club for their first football. It's a first of its kind in Oman, and it is also a response to what we've been hearing from the market. I think the people of Oman, especially those big fans of football, has been asking the private sector to provide their support to the football. You know, football is one of the most famous sport in Oman. So we expect this kind of partnership to boost the standard and hopefully the achievements that we expect from the club itself, and accordingly from the football.
Known as the Emperor amongst the fans, SEEB FC is a beacon of football excellence, holding to its name several Sultan Qaboos Cup and Omani League Championship winnings, in addition to being the first club in Oman to bring home the AFC Cup in 2022. As the official sponsor, Vodafone will work hand in hand with the SEEB club management to deepen the connection with Seebawi fans. The partnership as SEEB Football Club is the one of several impactful social initiatives on the company's horizon. In collaboration with its strategic partners, Vodafone aims to harness technology to bring together individuals, organizations, and entities as one, enabling growth and development beyond the telecom industry in Oman. Indeed, what a good start to see the private sectors supporting sports club. Congratulations to them, and we wish to see more private companies that supports sports clubs and other initiatives. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The Sultanate of Oman expressed its regret and rejection of the bias of the American administration and its use of its veto power against the draft UN resolution calling for a ceasefire on the Gaza Strip. The Israeli occupation forces intensify raids on the north and southern areas of Gaza after Washington vetoed a United Nations resolution for a ceasefire. And the Sultanate of Oman confirms that during the COP28, the implementation of strategic projects and initiatives to find practical and sustainable solutions to climate change. And with that, we come to an end of tonight's news bulletin. Thank you for joining us, and good night.